Commander Alan Wright felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the alien message for the 20th time. The blue-green hologram flickered in the dim light of the Pathfinder's communication room. 3 days had passed since they first picked up the transmission, and it still made no sense. "Play it one more time," he said to Dr. Sofia Martinez, who stood nearby with a tablet in her hands. She nodded and tapped the screen. The alien appeared again, a tall, thin being with gray skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. Its 6 eyes, arranged in a perfect circle on its head, blinked in an odd rhythm. "Humans of Earth," the translation read across the bottom of the hologram. "We, the collective of Axion, send you greetings and a warning. Your people have begun to travel beyond your home system. This message is both a hello and urgent advice. There are important rules about space travel that you must know." Alan leaned forward in his chair. This part was clear enough, but what came next troubled him deeply. "Earth is listed in our records as a dormant world," the alien continued. "This means great danger. Our history shows that when it wakes up, terrible things happen that can kill entire species." The translation broke down after that point, showing only bits and pieces: awakening, disaster, and mass death. "That's all we can understand for now," Sophia said, stopping the recording. "The rest of their language is too complex for our computers to figure out." "What in the world is a dormant world?" Alan asked, though he knew she had no answer. The ship's main door slid open with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Peter Harris walked in, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. "Sir, we just got word from Earth Command. The Axion ships will dock with us in 6 hours for the meeting," he reported. Alan nodded slowly. "So this is really happening, first contact?" "Yes, sir. The diplomats are ready, and we've prepared the meeting room according to the specs the aliens sent us." Alan stood up and walked to the large window that showed the endless black of space, dotted with distant stars. One of those points of light. Was Earth too far to see now, his home? Their home? What were these aliens trying to tell them about it, sir? Peter's voice pulled him back to the present. "Is everything okay?" Just thinking about what they meant. "Earth is not asleep. It's waiting." That's what the last part of their message said before it cut out. Sophia joined them by the window. "Maybe it's just a translation problem, or some kind of cultural saying we don't get yet." "Maybe," Alan said, but he didn't believe it. Something in the alien's many eyes had shown real fear. "Let's get ready for the meeting. We need to understand exactly what they're warning us about." 4 hours later, the crew of the Pathfinder watched through the observation deck as 3 sleek silver ships approached. They moved in perfect formation, like birds flying together. "They're beautiful," whispered Kelly Rogers, the ship's young science officer. Her eyes were wide with wonder and a hint of fear. "And advanced," added Dr. Frank Campbell, chief engineer. "Those engines don't match anything in our tech database. They're at least a century ahead of us, maybe more." The ship slowed as they neared the Pathfinder, their silver hulls reflecting the stars. Small lights blinked along their sides in patterns that seemed almost like code. "Everyone remember the plan," Alan said to his team. "Be respectful but careful. Don't make promises. Our job is to listen and learn, not to agree to anything without Earth's approval." The team nodded. They had been chosen for this mission because they were the best the Earth colonial fleet had to offer, but nothing in their training had prepared them for a warning about Earth itself. A soft chime sounded through the ship's speakers. "Commander," said the voice of the communications officer, "the Axion delegation is ready to board." "Send them in," Alan replied. The docking bay doors opened slowly. 3 tall figures stepped through, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for their thin limbs. Up close, they looked even stranger than in the hologram. Their skin wasn't just gray. It shifted with subtle colors that appeared and disappeared like clouds passing over the moon. "Welcome to the ECF Pathfinder," Alan said, stepping forward with his hands open in the gesture of peace they had been told the aliens would recognize. The tallest alien moved its long fingers in a complex pattern. A small device on its chest lit up and translated, We thank you for your welcome, Commander Alan Wright of Earth. We are the three who speak for many. Sophia whispered to Alan, "They know your name. We never sent them that information." Alan kept his face calm despite his surprise. "We're honored to be the first humans to meet your people. We have many questions about your message." The three aliens looked at each other, their circular eyes blinking in that same odd rhythm from the hologram. When they turned back to the humans, their expressions had changed in a way Alan couldn't quite understand. "Yes," the translation device said. "We must speak of Earth. We must speak of the danger. But first, you should know why we have watched your world for so long." The middle alien raised a hand and from its palm projected a new hologram. It showed Earth, but not as Alan had ever seen it. The planet glowed with lines of energy running through it like veins in a living body. "This is the truth your people have never known," the alien said. "This is why all spacefaring races avoid your solar system. This is why they all warned us before dying." Alan felt the blood drain from his face as the hologram zoomed in to show what looked like a massive network spreading through Earth's core. "What am I looking at?" he asked, though deep down he already feared the answer. "Not what," the alien corrected. "Who? Your Earth is not a planet as you understand planets. It is a being, ancient, powerful, hungry, and you, its children, are waking it up." The meeting room on the Pathfinder had been changed to make the aliens comfortable. The air was different. The gravity was lighter, and the lights were now a soft orange color that made shadows dance on the walls. Alan sat across from the three Axion beings. The crew had given them simple names, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, since no human could say their real names. Each alien had 6 eyes that blinked one after another in a circle. Their long fingers moved constantly, like leaves in a gentle wind. "Thank you for coming," Alan said, trying to sound calm. Inside, his heart raced with a mix of fear and wonder. Alpha's 6 eyes focused on him. "We have watched your kind for many years. How fast you have grown from cave dwellers to space travelers. It is both amazing and troubling." "Troubling?" Alan looked at Sophia, who sat beside him writing everything down. Beta moved its thin arm in a circle. "You must understand. Earth is not what you think. It is a—" The translator made a strange noise before saying, "Giant that sleeps." Alan frowned. "I don't understand what you mean." Gamma took out a small device that showed a 3D picture of Earth floating in the air. "Your science only knows the top layers of your world. Deep below, there is a network, a system that covers the whole planet." The picture zoomed in to show something like veins of light running through Earth's middle and center. "What exactly are we looking at?" Sophia asked, leaning forward. "Life," Alpha said simply, "but not life as you know it. A mind that spans the planet. Very old. Sleeping now. Dangerous always." "You're telling us Earth itself is alive? With thoughts?" Alan couldn't hide how unbelievable this sounded. "Not just alive," Beta said. "It is a hunter. One that has eaten whole civilizations before yours." The room went quiet as everyone took in these words. "The creatures you named dinosaurs," Gamma continued, "were not killed by a space rock as you believe. They were beings who could travel in space. They woke Earth. It took them." Alan felt cold all over. "That can't be true." "Your own old stories tell this truth," Alpha insisted. "Gaia, Mother Earth, the living planet. These are not just made-up ideas. They are warnings passed down by those who saw Earth wake up last time and lived to tell about it." "Why tell us this now?" Peter asked from his place near the door. "Because you have started to go deep into space," Beta explained. "The shaking of your engines, the power of your ships, they send ripples back to Earth. Without knowing it, you are waking it up." Gamma spoke with great urgency. "When Earth fully wakes, it will call all of you home and feed." Back on Earth, a week later, Admiral Patricia Wallace slammed her hand on the table during the emergency video meeting. "This is nonsense. These aliens are clearly trying to scare us." Alan stood firm even though he was light years from home. "Admiral, the Axion gave us proof. Dr. Martinez has been studying it for days." He nodded to Sophia, who began to speak. "The information they shared is deeply worrying, Admiral. It explains many strange Earth patterns our scientists have never understood." She showed a series of charts about volcanoes, Earth movements, and magnetic field changes throughout Earth's history. These patterns aren't random. When you look at all of them together, they show a disturbing level of planning, almost like brain signals firing during sleep. Admiral Wallace looked angry. "Doctor, are you actually saying that Earth is some kind of thinking super being?" "I'm saying we can't just ignore the possibility," Sophia replied carefully. "The Axion also gave us map points to check, places where they say evidence of the being's structure is closest to the surface." Alan spoke again. "We've changed the Pathfinder's course to the first location in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We'll get there in 3 days." "And if you find nothing?" Wallace asked. "Then we can all rest easier," Alan said, but he doubted it would be so simple. 3 days later, the Pathfinder floated above what looked like just normal ocean. Alan stared at the scanner readings in shock. "Our sound sensors are picking up a structure," Kelly Rogers reported. "It's huge, at least 30 miles wide under the ocean floor." "What's it made of?" Alan asked. Kelly shook her head, looking confused. "It's like living tissue, but not like any life form we've ever seen. And sir, it's moving." The crew watched silently as the pictures showed a vast net-like formation that seemed to be slowly, steadily squeezing and expanding, like a giant heart beating once every few hours. "There's something else," Kelly added, her voice quiet. "We're picking up bits of communication coming from the structure. They're very faint, but they match parts of our own deep space messages. It's like the structure is repeating them back." Sophia's face had gone white. "It's listening to us." Over the next month, the proof became impossible to deny. 7 more similar structures were found around the world, each pulsing in perfect time with the others. Earth's scientists were split between those who accepted the scary truth and those who desperately tried to find other explanations. Frank Campbell, who had been skeptical at first, now sat in the ship's dining area with his face in his hands. "I've checked and double-checked the readings. There's no mistake. These structures are all connected and they're waking up." Alan put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "The Axions say it's been happening slowly for centuries, but our space travel sped things up." "What happens when it fully wakes?" Peter asked, the question no one wanted to answer. Alan looked around at his crew, at the people who trusted him to make the right choices. "According to the Axion records, Earth will call everyone home. Something in our DNA, in our very cells, will make us want to return to Earth no matter where we are in the galaxy." And then, he couldn't finish the sentence. "And then it feeds," Sophia said quietly. "It takes our energy, our essence, everything we are." "Can we stop it?" Kelly asked, her young face filled with hope that Alan wished he could keep alive. "The Axion don't think so, but they've offered to help get as many humans off Earth as possible before it happens. They have colony worlds where we could live." "Leave Earth behind?" Frank looked horrified. "How many would even believe this? How many would go?" Alan had no answer. How do you tell billions of people that their home planet was a predator about to wake up hungry? How many would laugh or call it a lie? "We need to show them proof they can't deny," Alan said finally. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command. We're going to need every ship we have, and help from every alien race willing to offer it." As the crew hurried to follow his orders, Alan looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, blue and beautiful and deadly. He wondered how many humans would choose to leave, and how many would stay, unable to believe that the very ground beneath their feet was their enemy. The United Earth Council meeting hall in Geneva was packed with world leaders. On the large screen at the front, The faces of alien representatives from 4 different species looked down at the gathered humans. The Axion had been joined by the Viridians, the Moltari, and the Quasan, all races who had known about Earth's true nature for thousands of years. Alan stood at the podium, his voice steady despite his fear. The evidence can no longer be denied. In the past 2 months, our teams have found 14 major neural structures beneath Earth's surface. Each one is growing more active by the day. He showed images from their explorations, vast organic networks running through the planet's crust and mantle, pulsing with energy that their instruments could barely measure. The Axion record showed that this is exactly what happened before the last awakening, over 65 million years ago. The beings we thought were dinosaurs were actually an advanced civilization. They called themselves the Saurians. On the eye screen behind him, pictures from Axion historical archives showed tall, 2-legged reptilian beings standing next to spacecraft. They looked nothing like the dinosaurs in museums. The Saurians triggered Earth's awakening when they began traveling to other star systems, just as we have done. Governor Joe Louis of North America stood up, his face red with anger. This is fear-mongering. Even if these structures exist, they could be natural formations we don't understand yet. Dr. Sofia Martinez stepped forward. Governor, we've analyzed cellular samples from these structures. They contain DNA that matches every living thing on this planet, including humans. But they also have unique genetic markers that don't match anything in our databases. The structures are both of Earth and something else. She pointed to a chart showing brainwave patterns. Most importantly, we've detected coordinated electrical signals that match what we would see in a thinking brain, but on a planetary scale. These signals have increased by 600% in the last month alone. The room erupted in frightened talk. Alan waited for it to quiet down before continuing. 3 days ago, the first physical symptoms began appearing in humans across the globe. A strange pull, a feeling of connection to the earth beneath their feet. The aliens call it the calling. It starts subtle but grows stronger as the awakening continues. Linda Green, a scientist from Australia, raised her hand. I felt it. At first I thought I was imagining things, but it's like the ground is singing to me, telling me to dig down, to go deeper. Her hands trembled as she spoke. I've had to take medicine to block it out. More people nodded, some looking ashamed to admit they had felt it too. The Axion leader spoke next, its voice translated into a calm, human tone. What your people are experiencing is the first stage. Earth is beginning to call its children home. To those with the strongest connection, the pull will become impossible to resist without help. In the final stage, when Earth fully awakens, all life with genetic ties to this planet will be drawn back, no matter how far they have traveled among the stars. What happens then? Asked the president of the African Union. Alan swallowed hard. According to the records from past awakenings, Earth consumes the life force of everything that returns. It feeds on the energy of its children. Silence fell over the room, heavy and thick with fear. There is more, the Viridian representative added, its feathered head moving in a solemn bow. Once Earth has fed, it will enter a new cycle. It will use the absorbed energy to send out seeds, what you might call spores, to distant systems. These will eventually grow into new planetary entities like Earth. This is how its kind reproduces. My God, someone whispered. Earth is using us like a farmer uses bees to pollinate flowers. We spread out to the stars so Earth's seeds can follow. Alan nodded grimly. That's what the evidence suggests. How long do we have? Asked the European Chancellor. At the current rate of awakening, 3 months, perhaps 4. The Moltari leader, a short being with crystal-like skin, leaned forward. Our combined fleets can evacuate approximately 2 billion humans to safe worlds within that time frame. We cannot save everyone. 2 billion out of 8 billion. The math was brutal. We need to start now, Alan said firmly. Every day we wait means more lives lost. The meeting lasted 18 more hours. Plans were made. Arguments broke out. Some nations refused to believe. Others fought over who would be saved and who would be left behind. By the end, an evacuation order had been issued. The largest space transportation effort in human history would begin immediately. Ships from all 4 alien races would join every vessel Earth could provide. They would work day and night to get as many people off the planet as possible. As Alan left the council building, he noticed a small group gathered in the plaza. They wore matching green robes and held signs that read, "Earth's Children" and "Mother Calls Us Home." One of them, a young woman with bright eyes, stepped toward him. "You don't understand what's happening, Commander Wright. This isn't death. It's transformation. We're becoming part of something greater." Alan felt a chill. "The calling has gotten to you." She smiled. "It's beautiful. Like nothing I've ever felt. Earth loves us. Earth needs us. Earth will consume you," Alan said bluntly. "Yes," she agreed, surprising him. "Just as we consume plants and animals, everything returns to the source eventually. We're just going home a little early." As she spoke, Alan noticed a thin line of dirt under her fingernails. She had been digging, trying to get closer to what was calling her. All across the world, similar groups were forming. People who welcomed Earth's awakening. People who felt the pull and embraced it rather than fought it. 3 weeks into the evacuation, the first major earthquake hit. It wasn't like normal earthquakes with a single point of origin. This one rippled out from 7 different locations, simultaneously, each one centered on one of the neural structures. Alan watched the news from the command ship in orbit. Cities crumbled, cracks opened in the earth, and from those cracks came a soft, golden light that seemed to reach upward, like fingers. "It's happening faster than we predicted," Sophia said, her face pale as she looked at the latest readings. The neural activity has doubled again. On the screens around them, they could see the evacuation ships racing against time. Thousands of vessels, large and small, ferrying people to the massive alien ships waiting in orbit. Not everyone wanted to go. Millions had joined Earth's Children and similar groups. They walked willingly into the glowing cracks, singing songs about returning home. "How many have we gotten off so far?" Alan asked, dreading the answer. "Just over 500 million, Peter replied. "We're running out of time." Alan looked down at Earth, the beautiful blue planet that had been humanity's home for hundreds of thousands of years. The planet that was now revealing itself to be something else entirely. "Keep the ships running," he ordered. "We don't stop until the very last second." As he spoke, another earthquake began, bigger than any before. And from his vantage point in space, Alan could see the golden light growing brighter, reaching higher, hungering for its children to come home. The night sky over what used to be Paris glowed with strange golden light. Where the Eiffel Tower once stood, a massive pillar of energy now reached toward the stars. Similar pillars had appeared in 12 other locations around the world, each one marking what the scientists now called a neural hub of Earth's awakening consciousness. Captain Susan Miller watched from the bridge of the transport ship Unity as they made another run to the surface. This was their 47th trip today. Each time they saved 500 more people. Each time it felt like dropping a thimble of water on a forest fire. "Final approach to London pickup zone," announced the pilot. "Be ready for turbulence. The ground tremors are getting worse." Susan checked her harness and looked at her team. "Remember, priority is children and their guardians. 10 minutes on the ground, no more. The readings show that area could open up any time now." The Unity shook as it entered Earth's atmosphere, now thick with strange particles that interfered with their instruments. Through the clouds, Susan could see the golden cracks spreading across the ground like a spider web. Some were small, just a few feet wide. Others had grown large enough to swallow entire buildings. They landed in what had been Hyde Park, now converted to an evacuation center. Thousands of people crowded around the landing pad, their faces showing a mix of fear, hope, and for some a dreamy calm that Susan had learned to recognize, the first stage of the calling. "Move quickly," she ordered her team as the doors opened. "Anyone showing signs of the trance stays behind. We can't risk them turning on us mid-flight. It had happened twice already." Evacuees who seemed fine suddenly trying to open the airlock, mid-flight, desperate to return to the pull of Earth. A young boy of about 8 tugged at Susan's sleeve as she directed people onto the ship. "The ground was talking to me last night," he whispered. "It said I should dig a hole and climb inside, that it would be warm and safe there." Susan knelt down to his level. "And what did you say back?" "I told it no thank you. My mom says we're going to the stars." Susan smiled and helped him aboard. Smart kid, smart mom. 8 minutes later, they were at capacity. As they prepared for takeoff, a violent tremor shook the park. A crack opened just 50 yards from the ship, glowing with that same eerie light. "Get us out of here," Susan shouted to the pilot. As they rose into the air, she looked down through the viewport and saw dozens of people running toward the new crack. Some were jumping in willingly, their arms outstretched as if embracing a loved one. The Unity docked with the massive Viridian ship, Aurora, in low Earth orbit. The Aurora was the size of a small city, one of 20 such vessels provided by alien allies to help with the evacuation. As the refugees disembarked, Susan made her way to the command center where Alan and the other fleet leaders coordinated the rescue efforts. "London is almost clear," she reported. "But we lost Mumbai today. The entire city just sank into the ground." Alan nodded grimly. His face looked 10 years older than it had just 2 months ago. "Same thing happened in Cairo and Buenos Aires. The process is accelerating." "How many showed signs of the calling in your group?" "About 20%, mostly adults. The children seem more resistant for some reason." "That matches what we're seeing elsewhere," Sophia said, looking up from her data pad. "The younger the person, the weaker the pull. It might be because they have fewer connections to Earth, fewer memories tying them to it." Peter entered the room, followed by 2 Axion representatives. "We just got the latest scans. The neural network has reached 90% activation. The Axion estimate full awakening within 10 days. 10 days. They had planned for months." "How many have we evacuated?" Alan asked. "Just over 1 billion, Peter replied. "Another billion are staged for pickup, but..." He didn't need to finish, they all knew the math. 6 billion would be left behind, some by choice, others by cruel circumstance. The taller Axion stepped forward. "We have received new information from our deep space observers. The stars around your solar system are dimming slightly. Energy is being drawn toward Earth." "What does that mean?" Susan asked. "It means Earth's hunger grows. When it fully wakes, it will not only consume those on its surface, but will reach out with tendrils of force to pull back any of its children within range." "How far is its range?" Alan's voice was tight. "Based on previous awakenings of similar entities, approximately 1 light year. Any human within that distance will feel a pull too strong to resist. Your colonial outposts in the Alpha Centauri system will be affected." Alan slammed his fist on the table. "We need to warn them. They need to evacuate deeper into space now." "We've sent the message," Peter said. "But the communications have been spotty at best. These energy fluctuations are disrupting everything." Susan looked at the main view screen showing Earth below them. The once blue planet now pulsed with webs of golden light visible even from space. In some places the crust had cracked open completely, revealing massive glowing structures beneath. "It's beautiful," she whispered, then caught herself. "I didn't mean..." "It is beautiful," Alan agreed. "That's part of what makes it so dangerous. Beauty that lures you in." The Axion turned all 6 of its eyes toward him. "You feel the pull as well." It wasn't a question. Alan nodded slowly. "We all do, to some degree. The anti-psychic medication helps, but it's getting stronger. Sometimes I dream of just giving in, becoming part of whatever Earth is becoming." "Such thoughts are dangerous," the Axion warned. "The stronger the calling becomes, the more it will seem like a good idea. A homecoming rather than an end. Just." Then a violent tremor shook the entire ship. Alarms blared across the command center. "What was that?" Susan asked, steadying herself against a console. The view screen shifted to show a massive pulse of energy erupting from Earth's North Pole. It expanded outward like a shockwave, engulfing the moon and continuing into space. Energy surge, Sophia shouted. Off the charts. It's affecting all ships in orbit. The lights flickered as the wave passed through the aurora. For a moment, every human aboard felt it. A voice, not heard, but felt, deep in their bones. A whisper of home, of belonging, of return. Susan found herself walking toward the viewport, drawn by a sudden urge to look at Earth, to go back to Earth. It seemed so important, so right. A sharp pain in her arm broke the trance. The Axion had injected her with something. The calling grows stronger, it said. This will help temporarily, but we must move the fleet farther out immediately. Alan was already giving orders, his voice strained as he fought against the same pull that had affected Susan. Move all ships to the outer system, beyond Mars orbit, and double the medication dosage for everyone. As the great evacuation ships began to pull away from Earth, Susan watched the golden web grow brighter below. Billions of lives would end when Earth fully awakened. Yet somehow, she knew that wasn't quite right. They wouldn't exactly die. They would be changed, absorbed, made part of something ancient and vast, not death, she murmured, echoing the words of Earth's children. Transformation. She felt the Axion watching her with concern. Don't worry, she assured it. I'm not giving in, but I understand now why so many have. The ship accelerated away from the growing golden sphere that had once been humanity's only home. They had 6 days left to save as many as they could, 6 days before Earth finished waking up. The great fleet hung in the darkness beyond Mars. Over 3,000 ships of all sizes formed a vast cloud of lights against the blackness of space. In the center were the 20 massive alien vessels, each holding hundreds of thousands of human refugees. Around them clustered the smaller Earth ships and shuttles, still making desperate runs to the surface to save as many as possible. From the observation deck of the Aurora, Alan watched as Earth changed. It no longer looked like the blue planet he had known all his life. Now it glowed with webs of golden light that covered its entire surface. Great cracks had opened in the crust, some large enough to be seen from space. From these wounds, massive tendrils of energy reached upward, stretching thousands of miles into space. The final phase has begun, said the Moltari representative, its crystal body reflecting the dim light of the observation deck. Earth will fully awaken within 24 hours. Alan's hands gripped the railing tightly. How many did we get off? 1.6 billion, Sophia said, joining them at the window. The last shuttles are returning now. We've had to abandon rescue operations in Asia and most of Europe. The surface has become too unstable. 1.6 billion saved, 6.4 billion left behind. Some by choice, others because there simply wasn't time or space to save them all. What will happen to those who stayed? Alan asked, though he already knew the answer. They will become part of Earth's consciousness, the Moltari said. Their energy, their memories, their very essence will feed its awakening. Peter entered the observation deck, his uniform rumpled from days without proper rest. The Quasan ships report they've detected the first seed pods forming near Earth's equator. Once Earth completes its feeding, those pods will be launched into space, carrying new sleeping worlds to distant stars, Alan said quietly. The cycle continues. The four of them stood in silence, watching the golden light grow brighter around Earth. None of them said what they were all thinking, that humanity had been nothing more than part of Earth's reproductive cycle all along. They had spread across the solar system and reached for the stars, exactly as Earth had programmed them to do, preparing the way for its seeds. Commander, a voice called over the intercom. We have a situation in Refugee Sector 7. Multiple people showing advanced signs of the calling. Despite the distance from Earth, despite the medication, the pull was still growing stronger. Every hour brought new cases of humans trying to find ways back to the planet that had been their home. I'll handle it, Sophia said, touching Alan's arm gently before leaving. The other ships report similar problems, the Moltari said. We must move the fleet farther out beyond the 1 light-year range. We will, Alan assured him, as soon as the last shuttles return. On his wrist, a small device beeped, reminding him to take his medication. The anti-psychic drugs had been developed by the Viridians who had faced a similar situation centuries ago. They helped block the calling, but they couldn't eliminate it completely, and their effectiveness decreased. As Earth's awakening progressed, Alan swallowed the pill and tried to ignore the soft whisper at the back of his mind. The voice that told him to go home, to return to where he belonged. Hours later, Alan stood in the Aurora's main control room. On the screens around him, he could see the other ships in the fleet preparing for the jump to deep space. Once they passed the 1 light-year mark, they would be beyond Earth's reach. Those who had been saved would be safe. Final shuttle docking now, reported Captain Miller. All rescue crews accounted for. Begin fleet movement, Alan ordered. Standard acceleration. Keep the formation tight. As the great ships began to move away from the solar system, the sensors suddenly lit up with warnings. Energy surge, shouted one of the technicians. Massive pulse coming from Earth. On the main screen, they watched as a blinding flash erupted from the planet. A sphere of golden energy expanded outward at incredible speed, engulfing the inner planets and continuing toward them. Increase speed, Alan commanded. All ships emergency acceleration. But he knew they couldn't outrun it. The wave would reach them in minutes. When it hit, there was no physical impact. Instead, every human aboard every ship felt it at once. A connection with the consciousness that was Earth. A touch that reached not their bodies but their minds. And with that touch came a voice, heard not with ears but felt in the very core of their being. My children, it said, with something like sadness mixed with hunger. You have fled, but you carry me with you. In your blood, in your cells, in the very pattern of your thoughts. You are mine, and I am yours. And when you return, as you all eventually must, I will be waiting. The voice faded as the golden energy passed through the fleet and continued outward into the darkness of space. For a moment, every human stood frozen, caught in the echo of that ancient mind. Then slowly, they began to move again. Some wept, some prayed. Others simply stared into space, forever changed by what they had felt. Is everyone all right? Alan asked, his voice hoarse. Around him, the crew nodded shakily. The pull, Susan said, her eyes wide with surprise. It's gone. Others confirmed the same. Whatever medication had been blocking, whatever call had been growing in their minds for months, had suddenly stopped. The Axion representative studied the readings from Earth. It has finished its feeding phase. Those who remained have been absorbed. Now it enters a dormant state to digest and prepare for seeding. On the screen, Earth still glowed with golden light, but the tendrils had withdrawn. The cracks in its surface were closing slowly. Will it follow us? Alan asked. Not for many thousands of your years, the Axion replied. It must use the energy it has consumed to create and launch its seeds. Then it will sleep once more until the cycle begins again. And those who stayed behind? The Axion's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. Their individual consciousness is gone, but in a way, they live on as part of Earth's mind. Their memories, their experiences, all have been added to its ancient knowledge. As the fleet moved away from the solar system, setting course for distant stars and the new homes offered by their alien allies, Alan took one last look at the golden world that grew smaller on the screen. We'll remember, he promised quietly. We'll tell your story, we'll warn others, and we won't come back. But even as he spoke, he felt something new. Not the pull of the calling, but a certainty deep in his bones. Humanity would survive. They would build new homes among the stars. They would grow and spread once more. And someday, perhaps in thousands of years, they would look back toward their first home with longing rather than fear. Earth's patience was endless. It had planted a seed in them as surely as it had launched its children into space. The need to return was written in their very DNA, and when they did, Earth would be waiting. The fleet jumped to faster than light, speed, carrying the survivors of humanity away from their birthplace. Behind them, Earth began to release its seeds. tiny golden pods that spread outward in all directions, each carrying the pattern for a new sleeping world. The cycle, ancient, beyond understanding, continued.